You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth. Great to have you with us. Joining us now, former Republican Governor of Virginia, Jim Gilmore, also ran for president in 2016, ran for U.S. Senate, got defeated by Mark Warner, and he is with us now. Governor, great to have you.
Good. Thank you very much, John. Pleasure to be with you.
Now, I know you're a music fan, and so am I. I didn't watch the Grammys. I went to bed, but appalled when I get up today to find out that no rock songs made the Grammys. I mean, are we that old, Governor? There's no more rock now that even gets in the Grammys? I mean, what does that say about us? Where's the rock music coming?
There's plenty of room for rock, John. Don't worry. We'll all be back on our rock here pretty soon. I'm kind of an old-timer, I guess. I always liked the Blood, Sweat, and Tears, but then in the later years, I like Steely Dan. They've still been playing. I think Bruno Mars is okay, actually. I think he's pretty good in a lot of ways. He's done a couple of songs that I think are pretty great. So, hey, look. The real problem you got with the Grammys is not that they're picking the wrong music; it's that they're picking the wrong politics. That's the problem with those people.
Well, I mean, they don't even give any of the good rock bands a minute of time, and that's what I was disappointed of. I listen to rock, so I was kind of dismayed by it. But then they give 5 minutes of time to the spoken word, people making fun of Trump in the Fire and Fury book. I thought this was about music. Right?
Yeah, when I get my John Frederick app, I'm expecting to hear a lot of rock music on my John Frederick app.
I should put a rock song on there because I love rock, but I don't know. Even today's genre, they don't even listen to that, like Blood, Sweat, and I mean, we grew up with that stuff, and now you can't even find it. Right? It's like, where did it go? Oh my goodness! All right, so let's get to the president's State of the Union speech tomorrow night, Governor. What do you look for? What do you think he has to do?
Well, I think that the tone in the country is turning a little bit, John, and I think that's because of the president's performance. If you look at what he's been doing, he's really setting out a change of direction for the United States, and I think people are beginning to figure it out, despite all the violent attacks you're seeing from the left-wing establishment of this country. Listen, the Davos speech was very well received. It was the United States going over there and stating our policy clearly that we're not going to be patsies for other people, but we are still friends and there's still plenty of room to work together mutually. I think the president is addressing this immigration problem as decisively as he can, something that's just been allowed to linger and fester for years and years. He's done a tax cut, which has got the stock market going through the roof. He's getting ready to bring out infrastructure plans, which, by the way, has got great historic roots in the United States. And finally, he's dealing strongly and decisively with the Korean crisis and other foreign crises. So what you're really seeing here is a change of direction and decisive leadership, and I think it's beginning to get through. Now, the president's style is not going to make a lot of people happy, and that's why his personality polls have not been so great. But his policy goals, I think, are beginning to get through, and people begin to understand the change of direction that he's trying to create.
Okay, so he says, or what they're saying, not the president, but the White House is saying that he's going to offer more of a conciliatory tone in the State of the Union, Governor, and try to bring Democrats into the fold, especially when it comes to his infrastructure plan. But you look at the Democrats now and they fight him on every single thing he does. How can he do that?
I think it's going to be very, very tough. What we've seen in the current political environment is that the left wing, which controls the Democratic Party, has got the Democratic senators in line. They're now uniformly, relentlessly, without exception, opposing everything that he tries to do. And, in a rough way, that makes sense because the country was moving in a leftist direction. He got elected and interrupted that. And so they're yearning to go back to the old direction for this country instead of the new direction that the president has been laying out. And that's why, for example, you see the Democratic senators from Virginia relentlessly and uniformly voting against everything that Donald Trump wants to do. There's just no exception over there. Their strategy is to keep the Democrats through the left wing very, very controlled and very, very uniform, and then try to break away a couple of Republican senators every now and then, which ain't that tough to do, as you know.
Absolutely not. And look, the Democrats, I think they were exposed on Trump's immigration reform compromise. And I just want to get your thoughts on this, Governor Gilmore. You know, for a year, I went on CNN and on my radio show and other venues, and I heard them yell about the kids, the kids, the kids. We have to protect the dreamers. We have to protect the kids. The kids are the first priority. Kids, the kids, the kids. And so the president says, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'll protect the kids. I'll give them a pathway to citizenship. I'll give them amnesty, even though I ran on a campaign agenda saying I wouldn't do that. I get it. I'll compromise. We have somewhat of a divided government. I got to get 60 votes in the Senate. I'll do the 800,000 DACA applicants, but I'll triple down. I'll give you another 1 million kids who are here illegally that didn't apply to DACA because they were afraid of being on a list. I'll give you that too. So I'll times 2.5 what you've asked for. And for that, I want a structural, long-term, legislative immigration reform that has eluded 9 presidents who tried to do it, starting with LBJ. And that includes securing the southern border, ending chain migration, going to an economic-based merit system, and getting rid of visa lotteries that don't make any sense in today's world whatsoever. The Democrats respond to that. They say, no. Well, if it's about the kids, why wouldn't they jump on that?
Yeah, well, it's about the votes. But, you know, the main thing I think we need to think about is this. We've got to, I think, ask the American left, what is your immigration proposal? I've never heard it yet. Like you've asked on your show, I've asked in the press. Tell us, what is your proposal? Is it, in fact, that anybody that gets here, no matter how old they are or what their age, gets to stay and be a citizen? If that's the case, I mean, everybody's going to try to get into the United States. This is still the freest and best country in the world, the best economic system in the world, the best opportunity in the world. Everybody's going to want to come here. So, I mean, I think Americans have to first ask, what do they want? Do they want a leftist government, which is going to say that we have open borders and anybody can get here and be a citizen, or do we want to have an immigration policy at all? And that's the fundamental question that has to be asked, because that then answers the question about what you do with young people who came here, illegally, and their parents came here illegally, knowing and staying illegal, and knowing they were illegal, and knowing their kids were going to be in illegal status, and not caring that about trying to get that adjusted. What are you going to do about this? I don't think anybody wants to take a young person who's lived nowhere but the United States and throw them back to a country that they have no familiarity with or connection with whatsoever. But that's not the only answer. If you just do that without consideration of all the rest of the policies, you end up with an open border situation that you can't have. So the president has got to cope with it and deal with it at long last, and not just simply let nature take its course. And I think it's great leadership. I suspect you're going to end up with the young people getting citizenship in this country, but he's right to demand that there be some kind of answer to the long-term problem. And I think that's, frankly, this is a president who's trying to come to grips with the problems of the country.
Do you agree with his compromise?
You know, I don't know. I don't know yet whether I agree with the compromise or not. And bottom line is, you're not going to be able to toss these kids out into El Salvador and Mexico. You're not going to be able to do that. And they're not kids, by the way, at this point. Many of them are adults. And I think that we have to have a process in place where they have to apply and go through a process to obtain citizenship. But then the question is, what happens then? Do the parents get to come in too? By the way, they were the people that came here illegally in the first place. So is that what we're going to do? What about aunts and uncles and extended families and cousins and all the rest of it? I think that probably has to go out the window. So, look, here's the answer. The point is, the president is saying, I'll deal with this fundamental problem, but you got to give me a long-term, comprehensive solution. And I think we have to keep sending that message. The American left can't can't evade that. They've got to actually address that with the president.
I tell you, one thing that you said, Governor, that really I haven't thought about, but you're right, and it should be the question asked over and over again, is, okay, Democrats, what is your immigration policy? Is it just to keep it as it is, chain migration, visa lottery, open borders, no wall, minimum security, anybody comes in, lower wages, take our jobs away, more people on entitlements? I mean, if that's your policy, okay, fine, then be honest about it. Instead of making believe it isn't, but it actually is, because, when you open the show, the first thing you said was spot on. It's about cheap votes. I mean, that's what they're after. And that's why the duplicity of the Democrats got exposed, their hypocrisy, because if it was really about the kids and the president said, I'm going to take your amnesty deal and I'm going to 3 times up it. I'm going to up the ante 3X. If it's really about the kids, then you would jump on this deal. Who's not in favor of enforcing our laws on the border? Who's not in favor of that? Who wouldn't be in favor of ending the ridiculous economic downside of chain migration that pummels wages and floods the market with low-wage, unskilled workers? Some of them end up on welfare. Who's in favor of that? Nobody, except Democrats looking for cheap votes and mega Republican donors that want cheap labor, right?
I think that's right. Look, the president's trying to address these things in lots of different ways. By doing his tax cut, he's got the economy booming. That's going to mean more jobs and more opportunities for both people who are here already and people who want to come legally to this country, because it's going to be a very strong economy. So he's dealing with that problem. He's trying to address directly this problem of the DACA young people, and whether or not they're going to be allowed to leverage in illegals from all across the world through that program or not. But I think there are foreign policy issues that the president is strongly addressing as well. What you're seeing here is a change of direction from the old regimes of the last several presidents that we have seen. And, change is jarring, and I think that he's been a jarring president, but he's also been a change president, and that's what the very people of the United States asked for. And I think that, I'm writing a series of articles, by the way, on foreign policy of the United States, which I hope your listeners may get a chance to look at. They can address it at AmericanOpportunity.org. And on our foreign policy piece, I've written 4 sections already, and I'm going to write 3 more on American foreign policy. And I think that the president is trying to change that around and save us from this crisis in Korea, for example. And I think he's doing very well at that. So there's a lot going on right now. I think that some of the old guard, like Jeb Bush the other day, just said that Republicans ought to separate themselves from this president, that he's not the leader of the party. Well, let me tell you something, John. He is the leader of the party. And that's just the reality of where we are. The people of this country who voted, Republican voters in primaries, nominated him, and Republican voters, even non-Republican voters, particularly in the industrial states, elected him. And he's setting out a new sense of direction. I wouldn't talk many times the way that he does, but I got to admire the change of direction that he's bringing to the United States.
I mean, it is what it is, right? His communication style, notwithstanding, like it or not, he's getting results. There's no question about it. I look forward to him tomorrow night in an unfettered manner, being able to chronicle what those are. So, Governor Gilmore, let me ask you this. About 3 weeks ago, it looked very bleak that Republicans could ever maintain control of the House of Representatives in 2018, especially after you look at the debacle that just happened in November in Virginia. Now, you're looking at this economy and you're saying to yourself, maybe people are going to see the results of what Trump has done and see the benefits of it, and maybe, just maybe, they're not going to lose control of the House. What say you?
Well, what say I is that we have to get the people of the United States and the people of Virginia focused on the issues that are facing the United States and the way that this president is addressing them, and members of the House and the Senate are addressing them. And to hold people accountable for what their position is. If the people of Virginia really prefer this relentless opposition to Trump, then they're going to just make some changes. But if they want a new direction on the matters of policy, then I think there's still time in 18 for this whole situation to turn around. If not, then 19 and 20. But we gotta get away from this notion that everything is based on race and gender. If we get this feeling that everything in politics is based on race and gender, then I think the left is going to continue to roll us up, and that may be where we are in Virginia right now. That remains to be seen. Instead, I prefer to focus on solving these problems that we've been talking about, and I think the tax cut was a good step forward. I think our foreign policy is being handled pretty well right now, and I think the people of Virginia and of the United States are going to see that as time goes on.
Gilmore for U.S. Senate 2018. Are we going to see it?
John, I'm getting closer, I think, to a decision about this race. Other people are out there running. I don't know whether they can win or not. That's something they're gonna have to decide. I, on my part, have to look at my obligations. I run a nonprofit called American Opportunity Free Congress Foundation. I have donors across the United States donating to me. I've got other obligations also business-wise. I serve on public boards, and I have a commitment to the success of those companies and the success that they're having. I have an obligation to that. So I'm balancing all that against future prospects of public service, which I've always hoped to be able to do. So I'll let you know as soon as, and your listeners know as soon as possible.
All right. As always, we appreciate your unabashed candor. Governor Jim Gilmore, former governor of Virginia, thanks for your analysis and perspective, sir. Always great to have you on. Thank you so much.
I will be listening very closely to your music selections, John.
I know. We got to get some rock in there. Blood, sweat, and tears. Way to go, Governor. We're for that.